All right, and welcome back to another pop marketing podcast. It's great to be able to be back and to be able to kind of catch up with the brains, the makers, and the movers out there in popular culture, doing cool things. And I'm so pumped that you guys are checking us out. Today is a special day for me because like you might have known from prior podcasts, I'm a geek in many different ways, but one of those gaps has always been music, and it's not something I follow enough to be able to be. I'm smart enough just to be dangerous with it, so I need to bring on really smart people to talk to me about how music fits into popular culture, and especially how it's kind of evolved since in the last 10 years alongside of social media. So I am super pumped today to have Mikhael Porter, and Michael is the founder, correct?
Yeah, one of the founders of Needle Music.
So you're the founder of Needle Music. So let me tell you a little bit about Needle Music. It's a social platform, like specifically pointed towards really sharing and sharing kind of the passion of the kind of music you're listening to with others. Needle's social audio experience streamlines the way you share and discover music. Find songs through your friends, celebrities, artists, and most trusted curators on a platform that breeds positivity and connectivity. God knows we need more of that. I always say, popular culture is that universal language. And I'm telling you, music is a dialect of that language, and it transcends, geographies, demographics. And it's one of my biggest problems. Like, we got all the music in the world right now. I can turn on Spotify and I can listen to basically whatever I want. But in the realm of like being drowned with choices, like most of the time, I'm like, go back to the stuff I've always listened to because it's tough to like find stuff that I dig. So I'm super pumped to be able to talk to you, Michael. Uh, Third generation entrepreneur, Miami dude. Grew up in San Fran, so you got the coasts covered. And you just said you celebrated a 30th birthday. Happy birthday and welcome to the podcast. And yeah, excited to hear more about Needle. How you doing? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I'm doing amazing. I appreciate you having me on. Excited to have a chat. And even in that brief introduction, there's a few points that we at Needle feel very strongly about and was part of the inspiration for us creating the platform. So I think this is going to be a great conversation. I think we already are seeing eye to eye in terms of the world of music and the opportunities that lie ahead.
All right, dude, let's get going. So I always really kind of ask more of an origin story, right? Like, I always want to know the story of how you got into the place that you are now and why you felt like, hey, there's a gap here. We need, people need a kind of social platform that speaks more towards that passion of music and specifically.
Yeah, so I started Needle Music with two good friends of mine, and it really just was birthed of a place of necessity where, we were tired of texting song links to each other, or we were tired of not being able to see what our friends were listening to, regardless of location in real time. Or, one of my co founders had the inspiration for this platform when he saw Spotify Wrapped come out a few years ago, where it's like such a cool reflection of your stats in music and your life in music and summating your past year in music and your top songs and your top artists and things of that nature. But why can't you have that every day? Why can't you have that in real time at your leisure rather than once a year, just getting a brief snapshot? So there was a lot of different inspirations, but all similar in the sense that we wanted a better way for people to be able to find, share, and connect with each other through the medium of music. And something you touched on in your intro was you feel like pop marketing is kind of the universal language. Well, we actually always say that music is the universal language, and we think that it can really bring people together regardless of if you've ever met, or regardless if you even speak the same language.
Dude, you got it down. That's a good. That's a good. It's a good elevator, man. Like it seems well practiced, which is awesome. Which means you're having a lot of great conversations with folks out there talking about
Well,
what
it's
needle
easy
is.
when it comes from the heart, but I appreciate it.
Love it. I love it. Hey, and I think that's what we need to is coming from that space rather than the space of hey, where are we going to be able to cash in, in spaces, because God knows it's hard and it's really tough bringing in another platform into kind of
Yeah.
this web two space, right? Uh, you talked about what it solved, and I love it, and I agree because there really isn't that space. I think the closest I can remember is back in the day when Facebook hooked up with Spotify or Spotify itself. It does kind of tell me what friends are listening to, but it's this endless kind of stream that it's tough to be able to get into. I did notice that Needle hooks directly into Spotify. Is that something that you guys from the very first are like, cool, we can kind of piggyback off of this and give people a better space to share what they're listening to?
Yeah, really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is enhance existing platforms. So whether it's social media or streaming service, we are trying to sit at the intersection of those two industries and really just elevate and enhance all existing products, create a more fun, more dynamic music experience. As you touched on, Spotify has some social features, but there's no real intention or curation behind that. It's kind of just like a passive, peak and surface level approach into what people are listening to. So we wanted to bring a platform together where it can serve to enhance the experience, as opposed to just posting a screenshot on Instagram of what you're listening to right now. You can actually post now in your bio your Needle kind of profile URL that takes you directly to your Needle profile page, or you can post a screenshot that takes you directly to Needle on your Instagram story that shows your top 8 or your songs in rotation and things of that nature. And then on the streaming side of things, we're seeing people spend an hour a day on the app listening to music and engaging with the platform, engaging with other people's music. So all the streams that happen on Needle serve as Spotify streams, so they accomplish their underlying objectives and KPIs, and driving streams and driving subscribers. We've had already several hundred users buy Spotify premium subscriptions just so that they can use Needle, because we're in beta right now with Spotify. But really, at the end of the day, we're just trying to increase the size of the pie of music streaming. And if people have a more fun way, a more dynamic way, and a way to listen and share music where they feel connected to others, we think they'll spend more time consuming music. So it really is just a win-win for all players in the industry. And we're just trying to create a more elevated, social, and positive experience through music.
Yeah, social and positive. I mean, well, that's I think what we need more of. But
Yeah.
let's dig into music because I'm super curious. I mean, I get it. I lived through it. I lived through music where it was and the industry that it once was before the internet. And I have a CD collection you wouldn't believe, right? Like I remember the days in college was just towers of CDs and then books, in the car. And it was just having that solid thing, right? Like you get the album, you listen to the album and everything just, the internet happened. I was right there, snagging whatever I wanted. It felt like it was, you know, Christmas every day to be able to kind of listen to whatever you wanted. And it felt like the industry had to make this giant shift to where they kind of still are now with thinking of things in a much kind of different way of how people kind of listen and vibe in music. So it's felt like a lot of creativity going on, but I've kind of gotten lost in the tornado of everything. Like what where does it sit? Where does it sit right now? Like what?
So you feel the same way that a lot of music lovers and listeners do. If you take a step back and look at the historical context of access to music and the music industry, you're spot on. Up until streaming became prevalent, 10, 15 years ago, you could only access the music that you had on you physically, or that you could physically carry, touch, feel, have stacked in your room, things of that nature. And then streaming opened up the whole world to now you have access to every song that's pretty much ever been made, at least, since like the 1950s, 60s, once things got digitized. But you have access to pretty much all digital music with the swipe of your thumb. So it can be overwhelming. And, the only way to facilitate music discovery right now is through the algorithms that the streaming services push to you. So we think that people should kind of go back to the days of having some personalization to the music and bringing back the scarcity of music and making it a little more important, a little more personalized, and a little more special with, whether it's kind of recreating the, moment of me burning a CD for someone, or just being able to have it be a true reflection of how I'm feeling, or who I am. We just think that there's a lot of power in the intentional curation of music and using other people to fuel your discovery rather than just relying on algorithms. So, our song save rate is at 50% right now on the app, which blows most, streaming services out of the water. And while they have supercomputers that, are really great in helping you find songs based on your listening history, we think that there's no better way to find music than through your favorite friend, your favorite influencer, your favorite artist. And not only is it a great way to find music, but when you do find that song that you love, you now feel really connected to the person that shared it. So it's just really exciting from a lot of different angles. And that's why we've built such a dedicated little community of music curators and listeners on the app.
Yeah, no, I love that because there is something really special about an artist that I connect with, and then being able to say, okay, what in real time is inspiring them? What in real time that they're kind of vibing on and finding? Like, I don't have the time. That's not my job.
Totally.
Like, I don't have the time, but I want the best. I want the cool stuff, and I don't just have the time to dig into it. Like, I do have friends that have always been that, right? But I do not have that.
100%. And so, I mean, from the celebrity perspective, it's exciting because, with social media, you know what a celebrity is eating, you know what they're wearing, you know what they're doing, you know who they're dating, but you don't really know what music they're listening to. So there's a lot of value and just intimacy that we think can be derived from just opening up the doors to connecting through music. But then also on just the peer to peer perspective, or the local kind of DJ or music curator in a friend group perspective, there's so many people with the gift of music curation, and we think there should be a platform dedicated to letting them showcase and spread that, music consumption and curation that they love so much. So there's just a lot of different angles that we think people can fit into and create and share and just, derive value from the platform on.
Yeah, let's dig into that curation, and especially like totally get like the friend circles and those sources, and we can get into that. But I'm really like vibing towards the celebrity and artist and stuff like that. Like, so with Needles so far, like, did you have any stories or anything that are like, okay, like you can listen to the same music that that X is listening to?
Yeah, so we have some athletes, some DJs, some
Right.
artists on the platform right now. We just have entered a partnership with AIDA Management, which manages some of the bigger house music names in the world. So we have Dom Bresky on the app right now. He was an early adopter, and he's famous for playing kind of disco, party, funky, really upbeat and energetic music. And then you'll see on the app a lot of what he's listening to and curating is more melodic, low key, kind of Sade type feeling music. And it's just so interesting and amazing to be able to see that and to feel connected to him in a different way. But also now he's now gaining other types of fans that are going to then listen to the music he's actually creating just because they love the music that he's curating. So we think that celebrities moving forward should be able to monetize and, create value for their fans in more ways than just the music they're creating, but also in the music that they're curating. And I know I would pay to see what my favorite artists are listening to, and to be part of their playlists on a daily basis and things of that nature. So we're just scratching the surface, but we think that there's a lot of exciting times ahead for us.
Yeah, you bring up like that's the cool thing. Like you bring up, when I talk to brands, I'm always saying like, yeah, NFL or NBA is pop culture, it's entwined into fashion, into music 100%, into gaming, into everything, right? So everything kind of has mixed up
Mm,
and in recent years, which is rad. It's like the dream, right? Like
totally.
you get to kind of see all the things we really are passionate about and then explore different parts of those people through the different stuff that they listen to. So when you say athletes, it's crazy. Like I would be interested in hearing what they're listening to during a season, during whatever, like what they're what they're going on, right? And the same goes with they don't necessarily have to be a musician, right? Like it could
100%. Well, I mean, everything is just converging with digitization. You saying that brings back to one of our early days that was really exciting for us, where Julie Ertz was playing in the World Cup, and on her ride home after they won the bronze medal that year or this past World Cup. Um, I think it was actually the Olympics, excuse me. They won the bronze medal in the Olympics. She posted her songs that she was listening to on the ride home. And it was just a really cool way for our community to be able to tap in and share that experience with her. So yeah, certainly we're just scratching the surface, and there's so many opportunities moving forward. But what's interesting that you say is something that we hear a lot from our users, where a lot of our users are calling certain features of our apps the X for music, right? So we have group messages on the app, and a lot of them are centered around genres, or they're centered around location, or we even have some artists that are creating kind of their little fan clubs where they're sending songs to and communicating with their diehard fans in the app, and they're calling that the Discord for music, right? We also have a way to share your profile via URL, and we're seeing a lot of people post their profile on their link in bio on their Instagram, and people are calling us the link tree for music. One that we've had since inception is people calling us the Instagram for music, right? So that necessarily wasn't intentional for us to try and mimic these other platforms with music as the footprint and the focus. But what has been very intentional is our intention and goal to create value based on existing structures and platforms. So we really just want to be that layer that is built on top of and provides a better experience for our users, whether you're trying to connect with each other, connect with artists, whether you're trying to share your music via URL, whether you're trying to connect just simply through song curation. So there's a lot of different segments that people love about the platform, but really it's just trying to create a better, more fun, and just consumer friendly way to find, share, and connect with others in real time.
yeah, through audio. And
Totally.
so and I think a lot of it too is always like a convergence of technology. I was reading a book about kind of the pop culture takeover of Japan, which I always keep bringing up, but a lot of it was, or a chapter of it was Walkman. The first Walkman, and like
Yeah.
the ability for the first time to like personalize music. Before that, it was like you're in a room, it's not yours, it's like everybody's that's in that room, it's like putting on like the vibe or like the mood of what's ever in it, so you have to think about others. But once you were able to put that Walkman on, now you're in your own world and you have your own like I always thought of it as like I have my own like score, like movie score, right? Like whatever I want to be walking and
Mm,
talking. And now
the
how often is that?
soundtrack to your life. Yeah.
Yeah, soundtrack. So well, how often do you feel like people are listening when they're listening? Do you have that data of like, are I walk around with these headphones with these, things in all the time, right? Like I find myself doing that, whether I'm listening to podcasts or music or whatever. Is it super high that people are listening through
Yeah,
those, or are people still
absolutely.
kind
So the great thing about Needle is we were really intentional about wanting it to just enhance and serve as nothing but a positive on the streaming services. So pretty much everything you can do in Spotify, you can do in Needle. So a lot of people just use Needle for the discovery and the curation aspect of it. But the more that people use the app, we see they slowly transition to doing pretty much all of their listening and music
Mm.
consumption on the platform. So, we have a lot of different pillars that kind of show whether people are using the app a lot. We have a point score that's a reflection of both the engagement you've received on your music, but also the amount that you're consuming in the app itself. So there's, people are obsessed with our points. We have a leaderboard. And what we're doing now is we're creating real world value for those points, where we've already been giving discounted tickets to some of our top points users. We are going to be able to offer discounts on NFTs in the future based on your points. And there's just so much that these points can kind of equate to in the real world, because there's a lot of brands and businesses and people that want to know who are the most dedicated music consumers, who are the most dedicated music curators. So now we're just kind of giving full transparency to that whole process.
Cool. Now you've told me a lot about like what's in it for the listener, for the user, right? Like tons. All right. We have a ton of different opportunities to finally like kind of curate in a different way, share that, and even it pipes in enough with what you're already listening to be able to kind of be be a covering or like a face over the different spots that you
Mm,
already listen to music. That's rad. I'm going to ask kind of a two-phase question. One is like, what's in it for the artists? Because how have the artists kind of had to shift in the last 10 years? I know it's really they're making their money, and correct me if I'm wrong, more so on the of it's not from Spotify, right? Like they're making their cash from getting known and being able to tour, sell merch, do their own thing on that side to make money, which is different than back in the day when it was record label. What's in it for the artist whenever, and what's the artist kind of looking for when it comes to that?
totally. So, I mean, I think it's important to answer that in two segments, because there's the top 0.1% of artists who are the artists that we all know.
Yep.
So there's certainly value there, just in the fact that a lot of these artists are posting a screenshot to their story, as I said, on their Instagram, of a song or of a playlist. But when they do that, they have no idea who's actually engaging with that music, who their top listeners are, who is reposting their songs, things of that nature. So we give full insights into who is engaging with your music, and then you can obviously retarget those people. So there's value there. And then there's also just value in having a new way to connect with your fans, a more intimate way through the medium of music and through the reason that they're your fans in the first place, right? So there's a lot of exciting value there, and we're just scratching the surface in terms of what we're going to offer our top curators and artists. And I kind of touched on some abilities to monetize moving forward. But then if you look at the bigger picture, there's about 8 million artists just on Spotify. And as of 2021, only 30,000 of those cleared over 50,000 a year. So I think 0.3% of artists are
Crazy.
making somewhat of a living on Spotify. So moving forward, what we want to offer and where the entire industry is headed is it's less about having a million fans and a million streams, and it's more about monetizing your fandom and creating direct relationships with people. So you don't need 10 million people to listen to your music. You just need 100 people that really are dedicated and love what you do and will grow with you as you continue to produce and create music. And we think that music curation and connecting through a shared love of music is a really good starting place to do that with.
Yes, that's awesome. So it's more of like it's it, you're talking the way you're talking. I love it. It's like there's a lot of uh, uh, I don't want to just use the algorithm. If I'm just going and touring and doing all this work, like living in a van, not too fun, going from place to place and getting known, like I don't want to leave it up. Like all they can do is just follow me on Spotify, right? Like, and then they have my music and they may get updates and I might jump into their algorithm, but I'll soon be forgotten, right?
Yeah.
Unless I get back in front of them. So it feels more like some, uh, you know, as we getting into like Web3, like Patreon ish, like, hey, I want to be able to once you engage with me, not only do you get access to the music that I have online, but also I have a way to be able to communicate, to engage, go back and forth.
Absolutely. I mean, I could go on for hours about this, but yeah, you have it spot on. And imagine an artist is touring, like I want to know what they're listening to in the tour bus on the way to
Yeah.
the show, right? And we now have created our new profile page that just launched actually this morning that we're really excited about. And one of the things we brought into that is a media section where now you can showcase some photos and videos, what we call your musical moments, of you listening to music with friends or at a show and things of that nature. But where that's going is you being able to pull in all third party links, whether it's a TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or whether it's just concert tickets to show, hey, this is my concert that you guys should buy tickets to, or hey, from a fan's perspective, I'm going to this concert. Who wants to go with me? So there's just so many opportunities that we have moving forward to just create connection between people through the medium of music. And that's really what we're focused on moving forward, is capitalizing on these trends of, there being so many artists, but not everyone's going to be, an A-list artist. And then also towards a convergence of the social and music industries. We're seeing the big social medias now, the TikToks, the Instagrams of the world. Some would argue the best parts of those platforms is the music that is in those platforms, but they were not created for music specifically. So we think there should be a social media platform built just for music to facilitate music consumption, discovery, connection, all the above, really, and really just serve as a way long term to be able to create an ecosystem that can then serve for music promotion, and create an ecosystem for the music influencer. You have influencers for fitness, for fashion, for food, but you don't really have music influencers able to live in a digital space when they exist in the real world, whether it's your local DJ or that friend that has the aux cord. So creating an ecosystem for music influencers is what we're doing and what we're really excited about. And then we think we can take some of the prominence away from, just having to rely on playlists for, music promotion, to actually bring it into people, and just bring some personalization there.
Yeah. And I think it's, I mean, now that you're talking about it, I can see the space, the white space, really clear, and it's a cool idea. Just because if you look at Instagram and Instagram, but TikTok jumped in to where like, hey, sound is on, rad, but there isn't. It's not the music artist because I got a minute or I got a piece, I got a clip of music, I got music adds to whatever's going on there. It isn't the lead,
Mm,
it isn't the lead
exactly.
horse. So being able to tap into all those spaces is awesome, right? Like you don't want to be like walled garden and keep everything in. People, you want them to be able to use their Spotify, their TikTok, their Instagram, share through that. That's super helpful for you and cool for the user. I dig it. The closest I can, the closest icon, and this is too funny, is like, and I think this is the same way with Gen Z and millennials too, is YouTube becomes a music platform when it
Yeah.
shouldn't be. Like it's not a music platform, like
Yeah.
it's not really built for that, but it's a lot of people's number one source for listening, just because you can actually kind of, I assume you can kind of listen to the whole thing, you can kind of
Yeah.
hear the whole thing.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, in you bringing up TikTok, we've heard, and I think everyone's seen that there's been some backlash from the artist perspective
Mm.
about labels, really wanting all artists to create TikToks in the lead up to a song release and in promoting a song, where, these artists don't want to dance on camera oftentimes to promote a song. They want to create their art and do what they love, which is focus on the music. So we think there should be a way to promote music without having to dance on camera. So Needle can kind of serve that function as well.
Amen. I totally get that. It's like, it's not, but I get it because that's where the kids are. So
Yeah.
that's where the popular kids are. Um, so we talked about, okay, the value in looking into the consumer, and I think that's right on. And then the artist, like what's in it for the artist. What about marketers, right? What about brands? Have you guys thought about like how are how are brands and people that want to get in front of music lovers, like what are they missing right now? Without something like Needle.
Yeah, so There's a few use cases that we see pretty clearly for companies and brands. I mean, something as simple as, one of our inspirations and a close friend of mine. He's a local music curator, music aficionado, and he actually gets paid, around $1,000 a month for several different companies and brands to create the soundtrack and the playlists for their brands, for their physical locations, for their restaurants, things of that nature. So, what if you could do that all on Needle without having to do it on an a la carte basis, where you could just tap in to your favorite music curators to help represent the music that you want your consumers and your clients to see? And then also on the flip side of that, there's a lot of brands that create playlists right now themselves as a way to connect with their audience. So we think that there should just be a more social, easier way to do that, and that's what Needle can facilitate. So really, just connecting to others, whether it's a company or a human being, through the medium of music, we think is powerful. And there's certainly some monetization opportunities in there as well. So that's kind of a surface level answer. But then if you get more into music centric companies, I live in Miami. Our kind of music hub is Space, right? I don't go there very often, or I think I've been there twice. I've been dragged there, but I know that there's world class DJs there every single weekend. Tonight,
Yeah.
there's Clooney there, who I love as a DJ, but I'm not willing to stay out to 6 a.m. to listen to his music. So what if I could just tap into Space's Needle and I could see what was played the past night? And so there's just so many ways to be able to offer functionality and access through our platform with music as the focus.
Cool. And I know this is going to be a rabbit hole, but like when you bring up NFTs, I've been lucky enough to kind of be connected with some of my friends that are in the space, that were in the music space before, and we're like, dude, this is broken. Tickets are
Mhm.
broken. Like we need to get into a space where it's for the fans, for the people, and I love the story, right? Like I absolutely feel it's the direction we're going to be going. Whatever the technology is behind it, is the plumbing. I don't care as much, but we do have a need for that. How do you see? And this doesn't have to be needle centric, but how do you see? Are you excited for? And you're in Miami, which is a
Yeah, a lot
NFT,
happening in Web
a
three. Yeah.
blockchain and NFT hub, right? Like so. From what you're hearing out there, where do you think kind of things are moving? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm super excited just about the opportunity for the people that are creating value on platforms to be able to participate in that value.
Yeah,
So that's where I see the most upside. And music is certainly an amazing use case for blockchain and Web3 and decentralization in general. So we have had many conversations and definitely have that in our roadmap as to how we can have a Web3 integration. To be honest, our point system is pretty much an MVP for tokens. So we certainly have some ambitions in that space in terms of Needle, but in terms of the larger industry, we're just scratching the surface. We're in the on the second pitch of the first inning at the first at bat,
yeah.
right, in the game for Web3. But we've already seen so many starting points and proof of concepts for where value can just be spread in a more fair and just proper way, really. So I there's certainly a lot more to uncover here, but I'm really excited about all the companies moving in the Web3 direction in the music space.
Yeah, it's really interesting to even think about like, hey, I before this time, we're going to be we've lived in a time where if you're a fan, you're a fan and you just spend so it doesn't really matter, you're just consuming that stuff and you're putting a lot of work and effort out to build that artist or that space. And I've always seen in at least marketing is that celebrities or influencers or anybody, they're way better if they have like stake in the game, right? Like they're way better if they're like, cool, when they do good, I do good. If I'm putting work out there to like push, then I have an opportunity to earn, whatever that is. Even if it's to say like I'm earning, I'm like, hey, I get better tickets. I get more, the first go at merch when it comes out. I get more access than somebody who just listening to somebody for the first time. So it's cool.
Totally, totally. I mean, I don't want to give away some of our secret sauce that we're looking to implement moving forward, but really, the streaming services, all they want is to drive subs and increase their bottom line. They
Yeah.
don't really care. They haven't really shown to place an importance on how much you're listening to music. They just care you're paying for our premium service. Listen to one song or listen to 1,000 songs a day. That's up to you. But we think that there is more value that we can extract, and there's value to be derived from the level of a music consumer that you are. So the biggest music consumers we think should be able to participate in some of the value and the revenue that they're creating, not just for the industry at whole, but the streaming services and the artists as well. So, I think Web3 just allows more utility in being able to serve those purposes. So that's where we're looking to integrate with the token or Web3 moving forward, is to reward our top consumers, top curators, things of that nature.
Yeah, and I mean, you can kind of start going down that creator road too, to say like, hey, if you're helping create and add value to my platform, like there's stuff in it for you too. So I totally
Totally.
get that. And it's like I can earn from the thing I'm already spending way too much time on, but like it produces a value. So
We dream of a world
the dream.
where people can get paid by listening and curating music. Absolutely.
Dude, I love it because it's like you have gaming. I mean, it's just I'm living in a dream world. I got more superhero movies than I can eat, and
I
I got
know, right?
and I
our
got
kids, our kids are gonna have careers just by listening to music and playing video games. They'll be making money.
dude. I do. I love it because there has always been a value. There's always been a value pushed out there to people that love the art. Now, I did want to ask this. So I do dabble more in the world of, I think it's super interesting. Like YouTube playlists crack me up. Like, and I do listen to it. I listen to it for sleep. I listen
Mm.
to it for vibes when I'm working. It's like, hey, I want the Elon Musk, working in his, or Tony Stark working in his thing list, right? Like that's just giving me a vibe. Do you see a mix? Is that something you guys are into? Is to be like, hey, you're in this place, you're in this context, you're working out, you're doing whatever. Like how are people listening to music now? Is that a chunk of it?
Absolutely. So that was one of our initial use cases for Needle, where we had. So our first version of our profile was a top eight. So you could show, it was inspired by MySpace because that's our generation. But you could show your top eight songs at any given moment. You could create a new top eight every day, and then you would tag it with an activity or a moment or an event that you were doing to correspond with that music. So then you could then on the back end search by those moments or activities to see what are the songs that people are listening to most for working out, for cooking, for partying, for on the boat, for things of that nature. We have now since evolved our profile and are now retooling that functionality, but we're going to bring that in a big way moving forward, because it is so cool to be able to crowdsource music from people that you trust in regard to specific moments where music is so prevalent.
Yeah, and to be able to tap into that person at that time. I was listening to an interview about Chappelle, right? Like he's a big fan of, before he goes on stage, he's got a specific even song that he'll listen to over and over again, right? And it's not even hype. It's just what he's listening to and curated, that he's like, dude, this is the thing that gets me in the space to be able to get up and just slay it on stage, right? Like how valuable is that to me, dude? I want to hear every penny of that, right? Like,
Totally. And so that would be cool just to see, but that would be, as you said, that there's real value there. Other people, other comedians, other people giving public speeches, before a podcast, things of that nature. If that is a song that can help us lock in, I would pay to gain access to see what a mastermind is doing in their preparation. And music obviously is so intertwined with so many aspects of the world and life. So yeah, I love that. And you certainly are seeing it the same way we are.
yeah, killer. No, this is great. This is great. And I think that music is such a layer to every part of our lives. And now that we can carry it around anywhere and everywhere we go, it just becomes more and more important. And audio has definitely taken like a big a big leap forward, and we're testing some stuff out. But what we don't have is a good way to be able to share that stuff, what we're listening to out, and that seems like a waste. So I'm really pumped about Needle, and we'll start jumping in. Even as a non music nerd, I'll be diving in. So cool. We've covered what's in it for brands and marketers. What's in it for the artist? What's in it for the users that's listening to it? I did want to get your thoughts before we take off. What about like music and popular culture discovery? What are your thoughts on like, Kate Bush and Metallica like blows up out of nowhere with Stranger Things? And it's nuts because a lot of these kids are finding these, like that's their introduction. That's their introduction sometimes to the Beatles or to different things that we take for granted. Then you got like TikTok, that rediscovery of Fleetwood Mac, in 2020 with the dreams come back. Like, how do you see whenever these things pop in popular culture? How do you see? Do you talk about taking advantage of that, or what needs
Yeah,
for it?
absolutely. So, you know, taking a step back, people may not know that 75% of US music consumption, for example, is not new releases. So songs that were released past the last 18 months. So, this is now a way where you can trend music that isn't new music. So we think that, and we've seen it on the app where, one of our top curators will post a Jules Santana song from 10 years ago, and people are like, oh my gosh, I love this song. I forgot about this. And it goes onto our trending songs list. So there is so much happening with pop culture, with movies, with TV shows, bringing back old music and then having it trend, social media, obviously. So we think that we can just be a centralized place to help facilitate older cataloged music find relevance and trend in the current day, because it's already happening from a consumption perspective, but there's no centralized place to facilitate that. It's kind of just happening on one-off scenarios right now based on pop culture.
No, it's great. I wanted to finish that up. So do you see the data? Like, are you watching the data come in and you're being able to kind of see, oh, that's weird. That thing is popping up, and then you kind of follow it back to why or where
Oh
it
yeah.
came from?
So we can see it, but the great thing is that everyone can see it too. So we have a trending song
Cool.
list on the app that's a rolling reflection of the most played and most consumed, most engaged with songs over the last 3 days on the platform. But then we also have something called song credit, which shows, okay, I posted this song first, then four people found it from me. They ended up posting it, and then 100 people ended up finding it from those four people. And we call it song credit. And you can actually track the way that songs move across a group of people. We call it your thread of discovery. So absolutely, like, we are just showing our users how songs are moving through people, how songs are trending, who is trending them. And when you bring it through the context of people, it just becomes so much easier and such a transparent process compared to just these algorithms and these preset playlists being the only way to trend music these days. So yeah, that's one of the aspects of the app people love the most, is our song credit feature, and certainly there's a lot to be expanded with that. But yeah, that's the beauty of it, is we post on our social medias what the top songs were every month, but our users can see every single day what the top songs are, who found it first, who then posted it as a result of that, and so on and so forth.
Dude, Michael, I am so glad that you are there to make this thing happen. Like, you can tell the passion and like the excitement behind it. And you guys are already rolling, right? Like, it's already like you
Yeah, we're
everything
rolling.
is
We're
in
rolling.
play right now. Is there opportunities right now for like what does advertising look like inside? Or right now you're just
So
like, making it cool, we're building, and then we're gonna push that into it.
yeah, we're not advertising just yet. We have tested some song promotional, kind of strategies with, friends and inbound requests from artists that want to promote their music. And there's really cool ways to do that where it doesn't feel like an ad because it's just a song, and we're only going to show it to people that have an affinity for that type of music. So we really don't want to water down the platform, especially at this stage, by bringing in advertisements. But there's some really exciting revenue opportunities that actually will elevate the experience for our users rather than detract from it.
That's the key every time. It's like, what do you give? What are you adding to it? How are you creating a value specifically to those users and those fans versus what can they get out of it? How can I push crappy a commercial in front of, and break somebody's vibe up? It's just tough.
Yeah,
So yeah, I can see
100%.
so many opportunities with collabs too. It's just like team an artist or a top curator up with a brand that matches that
Mm.
campaign or whatever, and it's like, dude, brought to you by these two things, and then you just let it
It's a home
roll.
run all day.
Yeah, yeah, killer. So what are you listening to before we take off? What should we be listening to? I have no
Should I
clue.
pull up my profile right now so I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
give
yeah,
you
dude.
I can give you an exact
And I want to
reflection?
see. No, I also want to see like what's hitting in like. I want to hear what that top eight. I love that. Love
So
that.
our number one trending song on the app, you can see I have a little gold
Love it.
ring around it. I posted it first.
Hey, now we're
It's
talking.
called Your Voice. It's a really cool remix by Adam Port, who's one of my favorite DJs and one of our community's favorite DJs. He's part of a deep house group out of Berlin called Kind Music Crew, and he's just brings all the vibes always. So big fan of his. And then I'm listening right now actually to a song off the Dreamville album that J. Cole dropped called Heaven's EP that I love. I rediscovered one of Jay Z's old songs called Already Home with Kid Cudi that I'm listening to now in my top eight. And then just a bunch of random other songs that you may not know. One by Lane 8 called Grapevine that's been trending on the app. I love Chloe Calais. She's a really amazing DJ out of Europe. So I'm listening to the Enemy Rampa Paris remix that she did. So my music's all over the place, ranging from Sade to old school rock to rap, to house music, which is the majority of our users are house music, electronic music aficionados. But we do have quite a few people that do love the country, the rap, and the indie music as well.
Cool. I mean, dude, I'm gonna jump on and friend you.
Yeah,
I
we
gotta
need
have
you
that.
on it.
The killer thing too is just that if I'm in a creative or if my business is finding that music and putting it in commercials, putting it in movies, putting it in whatever, like I live and die, I assume, by knowing what's going on and being able to find a pick something right. Because this is pop marketing is like you don't want to pick it when it's gone mainstream. It's too
Mm,
powerful, it's expensive. You want to
totally.
get it to where it's like just edging, you can tell it's gonna pop, and then if you can get it right before it pops, like that's the win. So this is like
100%.
made for that, right?
The
Like
songs that are trending on our app, we'll see on Billboard 3 months later, sometimes a year later. Like
crazy.
Fred again, who has kind of taken the EDM world by storm recently from his incredible Coachella sets, Boiler Room sets, things of that nature. He was huge on our app 14, 15 months ago, and now he's in the mainstream. So there's a ton of use cases that have proven similar kind of opportunities and proof of concepts there. And we think that we can eventually add a lot of value even in the A&R world of music in terms of finding new artists, finding new songs, things of that nature.
Totally. Totally. And if I'm an artist, I want to get in there and I'm good, like you're more likely to be able to get found, right?
Oh
Which
yeah.
that part of the game too. Dude, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for taking a little bit more time. It's just super interesting. Love what you're doing over there at Needle. Where can people find you online? I mean, Needle, like get him on,
Yeah.
download the app, right?
Yeah,
But
so we're in the iOS and Android app stores. We have TikTok, Twitter, Instagram.
killer,
Search needle.music for that handle. But more importantly, we just want to hear your music on the app and have you connect with the people whose music you love, whether that's new relationships or existing ones. So look forward to hearing your music for sure. And definitely got to get your friends that control that aux cord in your friend group on the platform as
killer.
well.
Yeah, mine's weird. It's gonna get weird. It'll get weird.
Good. Well, we'll
But
find some people that like that weird.
all right, that's right. That's what we're all trying to do, right? Like
Exactly.
the whole new world. Hey, man. Yeah, thanks for catching me up on the music scene. We could talk forever. I'd love to have you back
Yeah, it's felt
on
like
once you
five
guys
minutes.
kick
Yeah.
back out, right? And yeah, thanks so much. Looking forward to getting this up and going so everybody can listen to it. And thanks everybody for listening to another Pop Marketing Podcast. Mikhael Porter, you're rad. Have a good weekend out there in Miami, and to everybody else, take it easy. Thanks.
Appreciate you. We'll talk soon.